Well, hello and welcome everyone to yet another one of my The Flash videos. So this video is going to be more of a follow-up video to my previous No Original Timeline Theory video. Now hopefully this video won't exceed 4, maybe 5 minutes, but once I'm done here, if all the presented evidence does not have you convinced that this theory might actually hold some water, then nothing else will. I'll also be making a couple of important clarifications as to what I mentioned in my previous video. There's also one thing you need to know about me in general, which is the fact I work on these videos and upload them after long days at work. Now, direct product of that is I try my best to make them as short as I could, and sometimes I may fail to make myself 100% clear on certain aspects. Now, before I jump into the topic I want to discuss, I want to remind you that this video is part of my Amazon gift card giveaway. Now, it's really nothing huge, but it's a token of appreciation for my subscribers and commenters so far. All you've got to do to be eligible to win is to be a subscriber and drop me a comment relevant to the content of this video. More details on the giveaway can be found in the pinned comment down below. But let's circle back to things I wasn't 100% clear on. Take for example my comment in No Comic Book having Nora Allen alive in it. To be fully honest, at that point I wasn't even thinking about pre-crisis. That totally slipped my mind. In my personal opinion, these are timeline resets, or what I just called them, resets. There are no alterations like the cases when one character goes about changing one thing about the timeline. They are instead hard resets, reboots, and their objective is simple. Comic books need to sell, they're business after all. Pleasing the readers and giving them good stories is all about making sure they stay in that kind of business. And those kind of reboots do just that. They kind of guarantee the continuity of certain characters that might have been gone down the road and retell old stories in different manners, changing some details and sometimes changing the final outcome. Now I know I'm stating the obvious, I do hope I'm stating the obvious, cause if we think there are any other reasons as to why DC does these kind of retcons, then we're practically fooling ourselves. But back to my statement about Nora Allen, which hence would still hold true. After all, I was discussing the origin story that Thawne was given on the show where he killed Nora Allen, and the continuity from the comics that happened to be its counterpart. And in that counterpart, Thawne was always destined to kill Nora Allen. It was a closed time loop as I indicated on my previous video. But the second point I want to discuss here, that's actually sort of definitive proof that this was always meant to happen, that this is the original timeline and there is none before it. Now once I mentioned this, you could always play the plot hole card, but remember the original timeline concept is more of a fan theory and not something concrete and not something the show has confirmed 100%. But I know that you're typing a comment right now telling me that Thawne's comments could count as confirmation. And you're kinda right, it would if you discard the fact that he clearly showed ignorance to a lot of things Flash history related, including what time period Barry is originally from, evident in the 11th episode of the second season. But anyway, Savitar, the god of motion, a frequent commenter on my videos in general and on my previous one in specific, he made one hell of a good point there. Pretty much for Thawne to figure out what time period the Flash is from and go back in time to kill him, all he needed to do was visit the time period in which he was the Flash. Now I believe we all kind of agree on this one based on the events of the show so far and the 11th episode of the second season in specific. Now if the original timeline existed, we shouldn't have ended up watching that scene at all. The discovery would have actually happened in the original timeline and after the year 2020. That is actually when Barry became the Flash, according to the original timeline theory that a lot of fans have been sporting and have gone to great lengths to defend. Now if that were actually to be the case, the original timeline theory would make perfect sense. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that simply put, if there was an original timeline, we shouldn't have been given that entire episode in season 2. We shouldn't even get to see such a scene post-2020 on the show's current timeline because that would belong to a totally different timeline. Thawne's discovery of the time period Barry belongs to should never happen on the timeline we've been watching for 3 seasons, yet it did, and even worse, before 2020. Now besides that, Harry did make it pretty clear close to the end of the 11th episode of the second season. That episode, that point in time, that was pretty much where and when Thawne came to know about Barry, about all of them, and about Harrison Wells through Harry himself. In the words of Harry, this is his origin story, not one that happened in a different timeline. But following when Thawne kills the original Wells to take his place, he tells him that in 2020 he successfully launches a particle accelerator. Now when I mentioned that in a comment stating that there was no mention of the explosion or a hint at it, some commenters took it to literally mean he should have said successfully launched a particle accelerator explosion. Now that right there doesn't make any sense at all, and I'd be stupid to want him to say that. I just didn't think I needed to explain that my problem is not with the use or lack thereof of the word explosion, but rather with the use of the word successfully. Let's think about it together for a moment here. Say a satellite is being launched and it instantly explodes, would that be referred to as a successful launch? So once more, what I was trying to say here was that the definition of successful launching negates the explosion and hence negates the possibility that Barry actually got his powers in 2020. So basically what I was thinking of there was something around the lines of you launched a particle accelerator that changed the course of history, or your attempt to launch a particle accelerator ended up in an explosion that changed the course of history, or any other similar variation. So pretty much I see that as possible proof that Thawne might have been fed the wrong kind of information that would lead him right to this point in time, because it was always meant to happen that way. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think. Don't discard the theory unless you've looked through all the points, and feel free to argue and discuss any points with me and others in the comments down below. And if you did like the content of this video, make sure you let me know by dropping me a like. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more of my The Flash videos. But until I see you next, thank you all for watching and have a wonderful weekend.